Good afternoon and welcome back. This is US Home Talk. We are your go-to real estate podcast, whether you are buying, selling, investing, wanting to learn more about how to keep your real estate and your protect your real estate portfolio, keep it in great condition. We got your back here. We are your hosts, Marcus Walgrave with the South Dakota Home Team, powered by Hague Realtors, Jason Walgrave with the Walgrave Real Estate Group over at Remax Advantage Plus, and Mike Overson with Luminate Bank. Also in studio, Evan Little, our insurance guru and exceptional, amazing producer. Good afternoon, gentlemen. How are you doing today?
Doing fantastic.
Fantastic.
Now, I'm excited about today's show. As always on US Home Talk, this is anything and everything real estate. Don't forget to send us your real estate questions to our real estate hotline, and that number is 612-234-7585. Again, 612-234-7585. You can call it. You can text it. You can leave us messages. It's 24/7, 365, whenever you want to. And we'll get these, and whether it's just a topic that you guys want us to talk about on the show, we'll hash it over. We'll see if it's worthy. And but no, I mean, we're here to answer any of your guys' questions, anything, everything real estate. So we're gonna have a good show here today. Something that I've seen a lot of here in the news, and we talk about the news on here quite a bit. Mostly just to try to give everybody a better understanding of like what's going on in the real estate industry here in the U.S. So, but a lot of news titles, subject lines, you're gonna hear that. You know what? It kind of feels like it's a buyer's market. And that's today's show. Buyer's market today, seller's market tomorrow. And, kind of dive into a little bit of the details of that. But, just to kind of go over some of the news articles that I've read here in the last couple weeks, that it definitely makes it feel like it's a buyer's market, right? I'm going to kind of go over some stats that Redfin put out there. 62% of buyers last year purchased their home at a discounted rate, which below the original list price. So buyers last year, almost 2/3 of them were able to find a home on the market. And let's say that property was worth $500,000. They were able to get that under contract and close on it below the original listing price. That is the highest proportion since 2019. So we've had this long run where majority of the sellers were getting what they were asking. Now that kind of that tide has turned, and about 2/3 of the buyers out there are picking up homes for under the original listing price. Another stat, the housing market had over 600,000 more sellers than buyers in December. Now, this is the biggest such gap on record in seasonally adjusted data going back to 2013. So that's kind of what we talk about, supply and demand, right? If the supply is continuing to grow, and maybe the demand has come down, well, that kind of gets into that conversation like, hey, this is a buyer's market. Buyers have more inventory they can go look at. It's not go look at one or two and quickly, sprint back to the office if you can and write up offers. It's let's go look at 3-4 tonight and then let's put another 3-4 on our list tomorrow, and then maybe on the weekend we'll go back and see our top two of that 6 that we saw, that 6 to 8 that we saw, and maybe sneak in a couple more just in case, showings. And so the buyers, they're getting out there and they're seeing more inventory. So I thought that was an interesting stat. The biggest gap, such gap since 2013. Here's another stat out there. 40,000 home purchase agreements were canceled in the month of December, which is a 14.9% increase from the year before. And that's again, that's that definition of a buyer's market, right, guys? If a buyer has their offer contingent upon a property inspection, and there's some things that came up, and they said, hey, you know what, seller, we still want to move forward with it, but we want to work something out with you to address these property inspection. And the seller says, nope, take a hike. And the buyer said, okay, well, I will take a hike.
Yep.
And kind of the stats showing that they're more willing to exercise their contingencies and to cancel purchase agreements. So and there's one other one here I want to jump into, a stat that I thought was interesting. A lot of the two of the big builders out there, Lennar and Taylor Morrison, had met with the housing finance chief, the commerce secretary, and talking about, hey, we have a surplus of new construction inventory out there, and the affordability of it is getting too high, and we're sitting on it. We've got this extra inventory. We need to get rid of them. So they're trying to come up with maybe some type of programs, like a rent-to-own program, a federally backed rent-to-own program to help these big builders with their big supply that they have. So we got buyers purchasing homes, 2/3 of them in 2025. 2/3 of them were able to pick it up for less than the original list price. More sellers than buyers, according to Redfin in the month of December. Purchase agreements are getting canceled, and the highest volume builders that we have in the nation are saying, "Hey, we got too much product. We built too much product. What can we do to get rid of it?" So you hear that, it's like, oh yeah, this is a buyer's market, right? This is a buyer's market. And sure, I mean, there are definitely areas in the U.S. that are buyer's market, but that's today, right? And we talk about this. This isn't like a 2026 kind of event. Wintertime is usually a really good time for a buyer to get out there and to pick up a property and get a good deal on it. So maybe this is more a seasonal thing than it is anything else.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Certainly the seasonal part plays a factor. And we talk about this often too, that there's probably more opportunity for buyers in the winter to get, a deal, or to get some closing costs paid for, or some repairs done by the sellers. There's there's more opportunity in the winter than there is in spring and summer and fall, for those buyers to get extras. Right. And so I love stats. I mean, I think it's, and we give stats often on the show. But I also want to encourage our listeners and buyers and to have your agent look at neighborhood stats. Not just city stats or local real estate market stats, but neighborhood specific, because that's one thing that I do see buyers can make a mistake in, and they can hear a national statistic and think, okay, homes are selling for less than asking price, and they go into this neighborhood that has 25 homes in the whole neighborhood, and one home per year comes up for sale, and they want that house, and they've been waiting forever to get that house, and they read some stat national, and they're, well, shoot, we're gonna get a deal. So they go and they make an offer for 5% less, and the seller takes another offer because it's full price, right? And so make sure your agent is looking at neighborhood specific stats before you make your offer, so that you have the best chance at getting your offer accepted.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're in a neighborhood that is rare that a listing shows up, clearly no one wants to move out of there, right? It is a desired neighborhood. People want to be there, which means that you're not the only person looking to be in that neighborhood. There's other people that also have their eye in that neighborhood, right? And so to your point, Jason, it's like national statistics, right? It'll give you the general trend, but certain neighborhoods, certain school districts, right? Certain, areas like that, if you have more of a defined geographical area, will have their own mini market with inside of it. And you got to know that mini market. That agent has to know that mini market inside of it if you want to be successful, in getting your offer acceptance or getting your whole house sold, in that particular type of market.
Yep.
We talk about, the winter months, right? And talk about some of the weather. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago on US Home Talk. Here in the Great Plains, I service the Sioux Falls, South Dakota, the Sioux Empire. It makes up a tri-state area, in eastern South Dakota, southwest Minnesota, northwest Iowa. You guys are up in the Twin Cities, and we talk about some of the weather that we get. However, this winter, we've had some very nice weather. I mean, yeah, we get our storm, but I mean, nothing was like you saw right around the Great Lakes or the East Coast just getting hammered by these historic snowstorms. It's like, well, those type of weather events. I mean, if everybody's getting snowed in and you can't go anywhere, well, obviously the buyers aren't house hunting when they can't even open up their front door and get to the mailbox, right? But so if you see an area there that's highly populated, again, those type of stats can really jump out because it kind of skews it. But here in the upper Midwest Great Plains, kind of quite the opposite. I mean, it's been a very nice winter. I mean, especially here in Sioux Falls. I mean, we had some snowstorms, but not too much wind, not too many like blizzards or severe weather. It was just normal storms. And if there is a buyer out there, I don't think there was more than probably 2 or 3 days this entire winter where a buyer's like, the weather's not really that nice. I'm going to stay home and not look at homes. They pretty much went out every night that they could with no restrictions to weather. So, that definitely plays a factor into it for sure.
Yeah, the whole weather thing is weird. We actually have like landmarks up here in our market based on weather. You know what I mean? Like a previous show, we're talking about like the kind of an indicator of the spring market. One of the indicators is the first 50-degree day. Yeah. Up here, right? And it's just like, it's kind of weird. It's like, and I'm sure it's probably like that in other places too, but it's like, we have like unofficial markings of like our market and like when it's going to take off and when it's going to slow down and stuff based on weather. Right. Yeah. Which is weird. So
today it may be a buyer's market. Tomorrow could be a seller's market. And I'm going to kind of jump into some of that information. But before then, let's go ahead and do our legal minute of the day.
This is Jeff O'Brien, attorney with Hush Blackwell, with the U.S. Home Talk Legal Minute. One of the most significant issues in large commercial real estate transactions is whether any environmental issues exist which could give rise to cleanup obligations and other liabilities. All appropriate inquiry is a term often used in conjunction with environmental site assessments, which are often performed to assess the liability associated with a commercial property and its potential sale. The United States Environmental Protection Agency established the All Appropriate Inquiry Rule to help develop a standard for certain landowners and potential purchasers to abide by when applying for eligibility of the CERCLA and Brownsfields laws. All appropriate inquiry is an EPA-derived federal standard that defines the amount and type of inquiry required to determine the previous ownership and uses of a property for the purposes of meeting the all appropriate inquiries provisions necessary to qualify for certain landowner liability protections under CERCLA. This standard is primarily used by persons or businesses seeking to both purchase commercial real estate and avoid potential CERCLA liability. The American Society for Testing and Materials, otherwise known as ASTM, has recently revised its standard for compliance with the all appropriate inquiry rule, and that standard is known as ASTM E1527-13. For more information on environmental liability regarding real estate transactions and the all appropriate inquiry rule, contact a knowledgeable real estate attorney. This is Jeff O'Brien, attorney with Hush Blackwell, with the U.S. Home Talk Legal Minute.
Thank you, Jeff O'Brien, for the legal minute.
Nice work.
Here on U.S. Home Talk, we are talking about buyer's market today, seller's market tomorrow. If you guys want to reach out to us, you can always find us on our website, ushometalk.com. You can get all our contact information. You give us a call. If you guys want to shoot us a message or a question on our hotline, that's 612-234-7585. Yeah, it might be a buyer's market today. It could definitely be a seller's market tomorrow. And the reason why I say that is because it can swing in the seller's favor very quickly. As we said earlier in the show, definitely feels like that's more of like a seasonal buyer's market kind of a deal. And we use that example of some severe weather that some of the regions of the U.S. has seen. It's like, well, you know what? If those buyers have been stuck in their home and they can't go anywhere for the last 4 or 5, 6 weeks, and they were already thinking about buying a new home, and now they're stuck in the home that they don't really like. One thing is going to guarantee is that once this turns and we start getting some warm weather and we're not really being housed because of severe winter weather, they're going to be chomping at the bits to get out there and start looking at homes. So when the market gets flooded with more buyers, well, then it's going to swing back to that seller's favor. The spring market typically favors the seller, not just for that example, but a lot of like rent lease agreements. They kind of expire this time of year. So there's going to be quite a bit of buyers that are going to be coming into the market here in the near future, and it may be a buyer's market today, but could feel like a seller's market here pretty darn quick.
Yeah, I think it's coming, Marcus. So I've got I'm going out on Friday to take a look at some homes in one of the northern suburbs, and a couple of them are coming soon, so they don't go live until Friday. And my particular buyers I'm working with, we seriously considered making an offer sight unseen, and because it looks like Friday is going to be packed full of showings, and this is a mid to high sixes price range, and it's like, man, I'm already feeling like this, the seller's market is coming, or it's here, or it feels like it's going to be here on Friday, with high demand, and a lot of buyers out and competition, and so you're right. I mean, buyer's market today, seller's market tomorrow. It can almost flip in a day. It can almost, that's a little exaggerating, but it feels like it could flip in a day. I certainly have felt this week that we're moving towards a seller's market and out of the winter buying market.
Yeah, it's if you look at stats, if we look at the last 5 years, at this point, right around Super Bowl-ish time, within a couple weeks of the Super Bowl, right? We in the Minneapolis market, kind of the Twin Cities market where Jason and I are located at, we've had in the last 5 years, we've had between 6,500 and 7,800 homes in the market. This year, we're right at 7,500 today, right? Mm-hmm. That is very low inventory for us. So, and we know what happens when we have low inventory at this time of the year, right? And what happens in the spring. It gets super crazy busy, it gets very competitive buyers, listings come on the market, they're gone within 2 days because you have pent up buyers, you got a lot of eyes, you got a lot of buyers out there watching for these houses to come on, and they know that they have to act quickly because look, the last 5 years have been exactly the same. This year is going to be no different for us because all of the stats are going to show that this year is going to be pretty much just like last year, which was like the year before, which was like the year before, and which was like the year before. So it's not a surprise. It's not a surprise to anyone that's in the market up here, like any sort of professional up here. We know what's coming, but is it tomorrow? Is it 3 days from now? Is it 1 week from now? Right? It's going to be soon. But we know it's coming.
Yep.
Yeah, and we talk about spring market, and we're not necessarily referencing like astronomical spring day, which is the middle, the end of March. Sometimes it comes sooner. Sometimes the spring market comes a little bit early, comes a little bit late. Up here in the north that we are, maybe a little bit weather affected to that. But Mike, when you talk about that too, and we've talked about this here in the last couple of shows, one thing that the buyer, and I feel like I'm confident in saying this, is the mortgage rates that the buyers are being quoted at. There's a lot of indicators that they are going to stay stable. So these buyers, they're there really isn't any indication that they're going to increase to a large amount to where they're going to scare out all these buyers. These buyers, if they're just simply waiting for warm days, that happen, at this time of year, one thing that they can be, pretty confident is that they're going to have a pretty stable mortgage rate, and that's just going to increase their confidence in making offers, and then maybe in some cases, to your point, Jason, maybe even competing in a multiple offer situation. They feel that sense of confidence, like, you know what, we really like this house. It's in the neighborhood we're at. We understand that it's coming soon. It's going to get hammered by this Friday, but we have some cash. We can handle some of these costs, these unknown costs of a sight unseen offer submission. The buyer's more confident with their financial position, and stable rates definitely helps that.
Yeah, I agree.
As always, guys, we appreciate you so much in tuning in and watching our show, U.S. Home Talk. You can find our contact information on ushometalk.com. And as our show comes to an end today, again, we just want to thank you so much for taking time to watch our show and your support. You can always find us online or wherever you guys watch your guys' podcasts, either today's podcast or our old shows. Check out ushometalk.com. This is Marcus Walgrave, Jason Walgrave, Mike Overson. Have yourself a blessed week.